Hello, welcome to episode 4 of Distilling Greatness. We are live here at the most beautiful theater and the State's Theater, Tennessee Theater, here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Hope everybody out there is having a great day. Got some great guests with me today, and then we also have Stanton Webster with us. So we'll go around the table here. First, I'd like to welcome back my partner in crime, my friend and partner, Jeff Arnett. How's it going, Jeff?
It's going great. It's good to be back.
Good.
Thanks for giving me a month off.
I know. No, it wasn't a month off. You were out doing some good charity stuff that we'll be hearing about here in a little while. So that's good. That's a real good thing. So,
absolutely. Yeah. Opening up distribution.
Yeah.
Traveling quite a bit. So it's all good.
Super, super busy. So, but welcome back. You were definitely missed. Episode 3. I can't carry it. So that's good that we got you back in here. So glad you're here. To my right, we've got the Miss Nicki Collett. I said it correct.
Right, you did.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah. Just for FYI, her husband would like to know she'd like to change the pronunciation of her last name, but we'll go with Collett since that's what it is, correct?
Yeah, Collett sounds fancy, but it's Collett.
But Nicki's joined us. She's the Director of Development and Partnerships here at the Tennessee Theater. Tell us a little bit else about you, and welcome, by the way.
Thank you. Glad to have y'all back. We've loved having y'all here to record the podcast. A little partial to this place that is beautiful. It's a beautiful space. Just happy to be here. And I've been with the theater for almost 2 years. An incredible place to work. Just a really, really important piece of this community's history. And happy to talk about it a little bit more today.
Sounds great. Congrats to the Broadway series has gone phenomenal. Your other shows, love seeing it. And I know everybody here at the table enjoys it. So congrats
absolutely.
to that. To my left is the leader of the cat herding for the Tennessee Distillers Guild, Ms. Charity Toombs. She's our executive director for the Tennessee Whiskey Trail and the Tennessee Distillers Guild. So welcome, Charity. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing and everything else. But
hi, thanks for having me today. Very glad to be here in Knoxville. So it's been a great ride here with the Tennessee Distillers Guild and the Tennessee Whiskey Trail, and we're off kicking a new year and welcoming guests onto the trail.
Good deal. Appreciate it. And last but certainly least, we have Stanton Webster. He is an owner, one of the co-owners, one of the founders of PostModern Spirits. How's it going, Stan?
Doing great. I am just showing people that if you set the bar low enough, this is what you get on a podcast. So I'm just so happy to be here and to bring that kind of energy to Distilling Greatness.
Yes.
This is the Less Than Greatness episode. I'm bringing that energy, sitting by the original JA. And so, it's exciting. Fun times in Knoxville. And it is like, what a better place to be.
Yes, agree.
The Tennessee Theater. It's making me feel classier.
We do what we can, Stan.
It's a lot. It's a heavy lift.
Boy. So, speaking of heavy lifts, hey, don't forget, as you're listening to this great podcast, we also have a video that you get to watch. It's a fantastic video. You get to see some of the behind the scenes modeling taking place. So, but with all that being said, let's get down to a little bit of business here.
Giving up Oreos for Lent isn't enough.
Just for Lent.
For me either.
I feel felt in my white, so I'm good.
I am bringing the dad bod every day. Every single day.
The dad's bod. Okay, so with that being said, just a little recap. We had episode 3. We were able to visit with Billy Kaufman over at Short Mountain. We talked about the importance, just as a little recap for you guys, the importance of the Tennessee Distillers Guild, how we were able to, Billy brought us together really and brought together that voice for us to speak with one voice. That was, vital to the success and the successes that have taken place in the guild, as well as the launch of the trail. And so today I really want to, what Jeff and I really want to talk through is, how did we get from this group of 13 of us back in 2014 to where we're at now with a trail that has, 6 million plus visitors. I'll let you do through a lot of those stats, but that's what we really want to talk about, and then talk about tourism as well. And Nicki and the theater, how they're really seeing and working with specifically Company, but honestly, a lot of distilleries, because they're pushing, they're increasing their bar service area, doing some expansion. So we'll go through some of that stuff. So if we can, let's just kind of dive right in here. And all this kind of goes around. It's become a phrase, in my opinion, that charity, I've heard charity use a lot. It's called whiskey tourism. So we'll get to that. But let's go through a little bit. Jeff, from the beginning, Billy started the guild. He absolutely did. There's 13 of us, Jack and George. At that time, you were Jack Daniels. The big three, if you which was Jack, George, and Old Smoky weren't a part of it. But you guys got an interest in it. If you could give us a little brief background on, hey, how did you get an interest in it? And then what did you see when we were talking about bringing the trail on board? That would be fantastic.
Sure. So, from my perspective, from Jack Daniel's, some of the initial conversations I had with some of the other distillery owners was regarding the Tennessee whiskey law, the definition, and whether or not, how people felt about it, if it would be beneficial to their model of business operation, or if they saw it as an impediment or whatever. So those conversations kind of had started long before there was a guild. And then before there was a guild, of course, we ended up in legislation, walking around Legislative Plaza, discussing it and kind of began to get to know one another through that. Now, at that time, I felt like there was some sentiment within the guild that it should be a craft distillers guild, and that maybe Jack Daniel's, I didn't want Jack Daniel's, I think, coming in and kind of overlording it in a way. But I think as the thoughts became that we really want the guild to be the voice of the industry for the state of Tennessee, that we could speak with authority, and it would be at least the consensus opinion of the different distillers. I think they felt like Jack Daniel's shouldn't be absent in that, So, there was some thought up front as to whether or not, because, Kentucky has done the same thing. They have there's a lower class, I call it, of smaller distillers. They have like an artisan trail, then they have the main bourbon trail. Not the smaller distillers don't get votes when it comes to, the different things you're discussing. When Jack Daniel's came in, and I was pretty adamant about it, I felt like, it's one distillery, one vote, that we are all equally going to share in what decisions we're going to make here. And Jack Daniel's interests are not greater, even though there's more money riding on it, they're not greater than people who have their homes, mortgaged against their success. So that was kind of how those conversations began. And we began to start meeting regularly. And I feel like, we've just grown from there. And we have become that authoritative voice for the industry, that the legislators of Tennessee look to us to speak. If something comes up in our space, they don't move forward without talking to the guild, which, that's exactly what we wanted, because I think we have seen the power of speaking in one voice. If we're not fighting in the legislative plazas, if we've kind of hashed out all of our differences and we've decided what's best for everyone, and we come forward with that one statement, we can typically get, what we're asking for, because we're not asking for anything out of the way.
Yeah.
So.
No, I agree completely. It was an interesting time. It was actually when I met Stanton. Stanton was actually, he's one of very few people that have actually owned more than one distillery in the state. The original.
I just love it that much.
Just keep doing it, huh?
But it was an interesting time to see, all this disparate kind of ownerships and employees and different people doing different things. And our industry in this state was just so young. Even though we have, one of the most historic, most globally well-known distilleries here in the state, as an industry itself, across the 95 counties, it was, a nascent industry. It was very young. And so seeing, being able to have people like Jack Daniel's at the table was important at that time. And then just strong leadership of the guild. I don't know if Mr. Tatum will toot his horn, but he was the president of the board for many years, and kind of the way we got from point A to where we are now was, I think Kris actually reached down and grabbed us and drug all of us owners into one room, and really kind of, it started with our board of directors. Jeff was on the board, and they all they set the standard for that one voice. And then we all grudgingly followed.
Well, I appreciate it. It's definitely been, from the beginning, it's a passion. You got to have a passion for this. I think Jeff said it best: when you're mortgaging your home, or you're using your retirement, or just, going all in, it means something different, and for us, I know the early conversations, and we won't go much deeper in the early, but the early conversations were definitely, let's speak with one voice, because we believe very, very solidly that if you don't speak with one voice, you're going to have division. So everything we tried to do was one where it was one voice, and it gave everybody an opportunity, whether you chose to take that opportunity with a revenue opportunity or how you ran your distillery. We still wanted it to be one voice, and we wanted it to be an opportunity for everyone. And Jack was a great example. There were a couple of things they were like, oh, hell no, we're never going to do that. And it was, a year later they're doing it, and that's not a negative. That was a good thing.
Well, I think from Jack Daniel's perspective, they began to see the power that, there were things that the smaller distillers needed that were really irrelevant in Jack Daniel's world. They were kind of beyond that in a way. But they understood that there, especially when the small distillers came to Jack Daniel's defense, which at times they did, and it was those small voices that really turned the tide back. Because one of the things I learned is there's not a single politician in Tennessee who's not proud to say that Jack Daniel's is in the state. But when things around taxation come up, you're kind of on your own. Because, taxes got to come from somewhere, and you got big shoulders, so you can bear it.
Yeah.
So you don't get a lot of sympathy when it came to matters of taxation. But things that they were doing to Jack Daniel's were also going to put burdens on small distillers, and it was them showing up in Nashville and saying, hey, if you do that, you're just making it even harder for me.
Yep.
That really helped Jack Daniel's, ward off some new taxes and things of that nature. So there's definitely been some tremendous benefits to Jack Daniel's, and there have been times that Jack Daniel's has just kind of gone along with things that the guild wanted and that smaller distillers needed that were, no harm, no foul to anyone.
Yeah.
And I think that was always our philosophy, is that, we didn't want to grind axes for individual distilleries, but if issues came up and we felt like it benefited more than half of the membership of the guild, then those are the things we wanted to put on the, on the agenda to discuss and figure out what are our main priority items. I can remember that first offsite where we came up with maybe 2 things that we felt like the guild needed to focus on. That was our 5-year plan. We got it done in a year and had to come back and do another offsite because we were so good at it.
Yeah.
So, but it was great times.
It was. So we during this, we had the formation Tennessee Distillers Guild. We had some negotiation period for a little over a year to get the Tennessee Whiskey Trail name. We got that out right. We launched in June of 17, I believe. Does that sound right to you guys? June of 17, and created this trail that went from, Upper East Tennessee up right now. It touches Virginia border, correct, Charity?
Yes.
You're up there all the way out to Memphis.
Yep, Memphis to Bristol.
Memphis to Bristol. So we did that and launched this trail, and we were still trying to figure ourselves out a little bit. But during that time, what we did find out is that local communities like Knoxville and et cetera, they were embracing this something else to do. And I think that's something to speak to, Nicki, the importance that you see from having things like PostModern in downtown Knoxville. Can you speak to a little bit of that, just your feeling of community and this phrase of whiskey tourism overall?
Sure. Yeah. Anyone who has been to Knoxville in the past 10, even 5 years can see the difference. There used to be not really a reason to come downtown, and there weren't as many restaurants. There weren't as many things to do for people who were living here or were visiting. So to see this, resurgence in things to do and places to eat and drinks to be had, it's definitely driven, traffic downtown. From 2016 to 2021, there's been a 10% increase of visitors to Knoxville. And we work closely with Visit Knoxville and, getting statistics from them. And they're really, really good about monitoring how many people are coming to Knoxville and where they're coming from and what they are coming to do. So here at the theater, we strive to provide a diverse calendar of events. There's something for everyone, from Broadway to rock shows to comedians to orchestra, symphony, those types of things. There really is something for everyone. And the same can be said for Knoxville. So if you're not a bourbon fan, gasp, I know, what is wrong with those people? There's something for beer drinkers. There's something for gin drinkers. There's something for everyone. And they're all within a stone's throw of downtown, which is great. Obviously I'm biased. We are right here in the heart of downtown on Gay Street. And so we love to see the restaurants and the bars and the gathering places pop up. So it really is just kind of driving this sense of community. And, post-pandemic, people want to get out and be together, and downtown Knoxville and other places within the community are providing those places for people to do that. That's
fantastic. And, kind of leading into that, Charity, you came on, about a year and a half ago? Is it 2 years ago? I may be off a little bit. But the thing is interesting is, as Jeff and myself and Stanton worked early on to get this thing going, and we launched the trail, then obviously the 2020 hit. And we kind of had this big pause. We had some good momentum legislatively, visitation, hospitality-wise, had this pause. And we've come out of that, and you've kind of come out of that. You really, in my opinion, and Stanton and I have talked about this, you really got us to another level when it came to that social media engagement, that sense of community and things like that. Tell us a little bit about what it was like for you to jump into this industry and go from, I think you were the marketing manager, I believe, and then now you've been promoted to the executive. Well, it may be a promotion you don't know yet. You've not been doing it long enough, but a promotion to the executive director position.
Well, and I will say, coming on, I was somewhat familiar of the guild's formation, working in tourism for a municipality. And during that time period, we had a distillery that was keeping us kind of abreast of what was coming. And so it was exciting to watch the guild and the trail really culminate and grow from 2017's launch to really kind of just being familiar with it when I started working more in tourism. And then when I came on to see what would happen in 2022, it was phenomenal for me because I feel like the guild had been so successful, but also legislatively so focused, and that there were so much opportunities to truly turn the next curve and grow the visitor side and the trail brand. And so when I came on, I think kind of playing upon things that Jeff says, you know, what I think is so unique about what we have with the trail is that in the sense of community, the distilleries and spirits, whiskey, bourbon, they are what Jeff calls, you know, products of place. And ultimately, one of the things that we really try to cultivate for our visitors is that go and see PostModern, but ultimately go and experience the neighborhood and the community that surrounds PostModern, because by far that is what ultimately creates and crafts the experience of enjoying PostModern and what's happening in the old city around there. And so one of the things that we've really tried to lay into is that we want visitors to get out and expand and see the neighborhoods and the communities that are absolutely defining these distilleries and those experiences, because that is what sets your experience apart, one hand over fist, in terms of how communities and how they differ from our rural distilleries to our urban distilleries. And so it's opportunities like the theater and adding that to a visitor experience that absolutely makes our trail, I think, different than anyone else out there.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I think, excuse me, I think the thing, you know, we talk about community a lot. I mean, we really do. And I think something interesting is kind of this integration of and inclusion of all of these different, especially you're looking at PostModern and Company, and then and the rest of the members of the trail as well. And then you look at the, like you were talking about, the diversity of the shows that you have here. To me, that's really neat for me to sit back and see how we are sitting here, and PostModern has got probably one of the biggest portfolios is from a UPC and product,
Yeah.
you know, but man, you bring it together and we've done some stuff together, you know, and I just think that's pretty awesome. And tell us a little bit, if you would, Stanton, take us a little bit on how you feel like how PostModern fits into this community and what, you know, where it's at with it around here.
It's just that representation of kind of intentionally being in a place and kind of engaging with that community. We were, you know, I've been in Knoxville for so many years. And it was, you know, PostModern is a representation of where we are physically. Like it represents that place, and that place is a city, and it's a dynamic city. It's a changing city. There's a lot of energy, but it's also a community of people that are engaged in making and being and doing. And that's kind of what we wanted. That integration was where we wanted to be when we founded PostModern. And we love spirits, and we wanted that passion for our spirit making to come out. We wanted our passion for our community to come out. And so we do make a wide variety of spirits, but they're necessary for kind of what we do, which is great cocktails. We love cocktail culture. And that speaks back to kind of that experience of being in places and doing things and going. And that's kind of what we wanted to carry through with PostModern.
Yeah. Jeff, you, and that's, I think that's well put. And that's how I think of your place too. I mean, we talk about working together around, but man, it's the same thing. You have the same concept. You know,
yeah, and you guys took that phrase from us, so we couldn't.
We did. I mean, it's a matter of big brother, little brother. I mean, hate that for you, you know.
It's okay. It's okay.
Well, I think Jen often kind of has more of an urban vibe to it, you know. So I think it's much more appropriate that it's a inner city, you know, kind of entity instead of being out in a rural farm. You know, you know, going out to Short Mountain, you're kind of not close to anything. And that's one of the great things about distilleries and the tourism that it drives is that it does get people off the beaten paths. And I know at least in the state of Tennessee, there are 95 counties, 20 of which are somewhat distressed, don't have a lot of economic prosperity, don't have a lot of jobs to offer. So tourism is one of the great economies of Tennessee. You know, it's one of the top handful every single year. And it gets people to leave Knoxville and Nashville at times, you know, not to say that we don't want you to visit the city too, but these areas outside, they're a little bit more remote. They're within an hour's drive. Totally. Of all the urban centers, there are some really beautiful places to visit just to get some fresh air and to kind of experience a product that's made locally where people are passionate and have a craft for what they do. It's really a cool experience.
Yeah. And I'm going to throw a curveball at Jeff here. Jeff, we've talked extensively, and if you ever get to spend some time with Jeff sipping on some bourbon or even having a good gin cocktail, hearing some of the stories about his travels is pretty amazing. Over 40 countries. So I'm going to throw a curveball with you. And what do you think sets the Tennessee Whiskey Trail and our group of distilleries, our family of distilleries, apart from other places you've been? Obviously, with Brown-Forman being a Kentucky-based company. Sure. Give us a little bit of thought on that.
Surprisingly, I have not taken the time to officially go up and take the Kentucky Bourbon Trail.
Okay.
I have, of the main 7 that are a part of it, I have visited 6 of those. And each one is slightly different. And I think it's awesome. I would never discourage someone from going to Kentucky and taking the Bourbon Trail. It's a great thing to do. But when I was on the Guild and we were talking about doing a Tennessee Whiskey Trail, it's is it truly competing with Kentucky, or is it something that would complement that? Is that once you've already done the Bourbon Trail, do you want to take that trail every single year, every few years, or do you want another state to offer you an alternative to that? And where I saw Tennessee as having possibly an advantage is that, Kentucky's got horses and bourbon, and Tennessee's got a lot of stuff beyond that. We do. We have, the music heritage, coming out of Memphis, you got, Sun Records, and then, over Brownsville or Nutbush, you've got Tina Turner. My hometown of Jackson, Tennessee is Carl Perkins, the home of rockabilly, sort of where rock and country met. Nashville, country music. East Tennessee, Appalachia, more mountain bluegrass style music. So, if you're into music, I would say that you possibly have a little bit better, I'll call it the between sips moments. As that, you're going to go from distillery to distillery. I would tell you doing that in Kentucky, a lot of backcountry roads and stuff like that, but not really a lot to do along the way other than just drive to get to the next place.
Spot. Yeah.
Yeah. And in Tennessee, I think there are a lot of things that will kind of catch your eye and your attention along the way. So you can easily do 2 or 3 distilleries in a day, but it's the content between those that I think will differentiate Tennessee over Kentucky. And why I think it, we laugh and say that, that, okay, go do the Bourbon Trail, that's a 5K. But the Tennessee Whiskey Trail, that's more like a marathon. Yep. You got 30 stops and 600 miles to cover if you're big enough to do it.
Yep. No, I think that's great. I love that whole Tennessee, Kentucky thing. When we launched the trail, we were big, Nicki, talking a little bit of smack, just a little bit here and there.
Yeah, I'm going to replay this. I'm going to replay this. We're at the factory in Franklin where president of the Guild, Kris Tatum, gets up there and says, "Kentucky, get out of the way. It's time for you to follow our lead." and Fred Minnick, who wrote Bourbon Curious and is a big Kentucky bourbon guy, sat right in the front row, and he's like, "Oh, okay,
it's on." Yeah. So we've had a little bit of that, and it's been fun. But Burger King needs his McDonald's, Home Depot needs its Lowe's. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, And I think that's something I want to say, kind of back up when it comes to working with Stanton and other distillers and distilleries in the Guild is. We had times we agreed at the beginning that you're going to fight like cats and dogs in that room, but when we leave, we speak with one voice. We're brothers and sisters in that room, and it's a learning experience. I've been way out of line before, and Stan's jerked me back in line, and vice versa. Walked me outside. So it's something that I think that's one of the things I'm most proud of. We've done a lot of accomplishments along the way, but the fact that we've kept that core together. And some are going to come and go. That's just the nature of associations. But I'm proud of that big time. So, but let's just go back, or not go back. Let's continue down this bashing because Kentucky sucks. If we could, let's talk a little statistics there, Miss Charity. Give us a little some information about Tennessee v. Kentucky Bourbon Trail versus Whiskey Trail, and then just a little bit of insight. What you and Stanton's currently on the board. I think he's finishing up year 1, maybe. So you're going to get to have
seems like longer, but yeah.
Does it seem?
Seems like longer.
Yeah, so maybe the two of you guys could tell us a little bit about what we see going forward, but some of the statistics that we see as well.
Absolutely. Well, I will say one thing from coming on is that I kept telling the Guild, we're seeing a huge resurgence from a state perspective on tourists. And I feel like I kept saying that. And when we actually did visitation numbers for 22, we welcomed 7.8 million visitors in 22 to Tennessee distilleries. So to say that impact, it's profound. And when I actually compared visitation to 2019, we still grew 1.3 million visitors from 2019 to 2020. And so, Tennessee is absolutely, anchoring itself in that visitation piece of it by all means. But, whiskey tourism is, again, just like we're talking about, is just one piece of really the true Tennessee experience. And we're proud that we can also encourage guests to create adventure and music and history and culinary experiences on top, and what really complements our overall whiskey tourism piece of it. So it's great numbers that Tennessee should be very proud of. And while we're just touting this, KDA just released that they had celebrated their 3 millionth tour.
That's cute.
Yeah.
It's really freaking cute.
Aw.
Good for them.
Good for those guys. That's cute. That's sweet. Really, that's cool. So tell me, Stan, a little bit about, like Jeff said, a whole bunch of our distilleries are kind of in pockets. There's this age-old East Tennessee versus Middle Tennessee, and then the stuff in between. What do you see, and what do you hope to gain, and what do you see the future for the Tennessee Whiskey Trail from a board member, but also from a distillery owner?
Yeah, I just think it's more like we just continue to develop our communities. We continue to work with our communities, and continue to just grow those relationships. You just can't, like, whether you're in Knoxville or Nashville or Memphis or the towns in between, it's just where you think about being in those spaces, you also think about those distilleries that are there around them. It's just a natural inclination, a natural growth, right? We're still a young industry in our state, so it's just digging deeper into those relationships, and they already exist. It's fun thinking about how you go from community to community, and it's like we not only know people there, we're related to people there.
Wow,
whether we're in Nashville or so you can't, say something bad about someone from Nashville because somebody in Knoxville, that's their second cousin. So you better watch out. And that's what we do is, we celebrate those. We find those places and we continue to grow those.
That's fantastic.
When you're in Lynchburg, they're either first cousins or married. Oh yeah. So just know that's an even shallower pool.
And I point out that you're swimming around in.
You did say was the key word.
I didn't say you were married to your first cousin, but they're all kin. That was the first rule of living in Lynchburg.
That's fantastic. I love it. So, Nicki, you're sitting here hearing some of this chaos and getting experience at some.
Great.
What do you see? Like, I know you are, excuse me. The big thing I think, for the Tennessee Theater, you put a show on, you put a Broadway show on, it's 16 shows. Mm-hmm. Open the doors, close it. You talked about the importance of other things to do there. I guess what I'm getting to get towards is do you see the Tennessee Theater growing and being more interactive? Do you have things on the horizon where you'll be more interactive from that hospitality, whether it's partnerships with Company or events with Company and PostModern or restaurants? Do you see that evolving with the theater, and instead of it just being, hey, we're going to go spend 2 hours here and then we're going to go somewhere else?
Absolutely. As a nonprofit organization, which some people don't understand that we are a nonprofit, as the official state theater of Tennessee, our mission is to preserve, operate, and maintain this building for the enjoyment for all. And that's incredibly important when we want to be inclusive, in talking about the variety of things that we offer here. Ticket prices range as well. So we want that to not be a barrier for people to join us. Last year we hosted or held over 200 events, and we saw, earlier this, a couple months ago, we had Hamilton here at the theater, which was a really, really big deal. And just in the span of 2 weeks, we welcomed 25,000 people through those doors.
Phenomenal.
So we just have this opportunity, here in Knoxville. We're seeing 6.8 million visitors a year, and that's $1.2 billion a year coming in just to this city alone. So when we look at our role and what we can offer people who are here visiting, like I said, we want something for everyone. But it is, like you said, more than just a show on stage. What we want to do is cultivate those lifelong memories. There is nothing better for me than to stand in the lobby and have someone come in and say, I remember coming here to see a movie with my grandmother. It's kind of, we want to provide those opportunities for the next generation of, theater lovers and people who live here and who are just visiting here. We love hearing those stories. And we have some projects on the horizon. We have a building a couple doors down that we're going to be, working on, and that's going to provide a lot of space for us to really tap into that community outreach mission that we have. Right now, if we have a show on stage, we can't really do anything else in the building. We're here at this table recording this podcast because we don't have the symphony on stage yet. They'll be here later, that sort of thing. So we need space in order to have other opportunities to do events for other people outside of the show that's happening on stage. So we're really excited about it. There's a lot of growth. There's a lot of potential, but we're putting the time and the energy into that because the theater, has been around for 90 some years, and we want it here for another century or more. It's just kind of continuing our legacy here for the community and visitors alike.
My wife and I are empty nesters now, so our kids are both off at college, and it's rare that we have them both at home at the same time, but they were back in December, and it just so happened that was when y'all were going to do National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. So I brought them over. We had such a good time.
Yeah.
And to your point, it was very affordable. It was no more expensive than going to any other movie.
Exactly.
But, people were dressed up in character and, hear the pipe organ play and just all the grandeur that went on around, before the curtains opened up and the movie started. We had such a good time, though. It was a great memory for us. So
absolutely.
Wonderful. I think you're fulfilling that mission.
Good. Good to hear. Yeah.
Big time. You come make the memories here and you go to Stan's place to forget them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I kid. Responsible drinkers.
Yeah. Growing up in just outside Nashville, my grandmother was here in Knoxville. My mom's people were here in Knoxville. And so there were so many. I remember it was just a few years ago when I was, maybe 10 years old, just not long ago at all. But growing up and having those moments of running, holding her hand, running across Gay Street and coming into the Tennessee Theater, like it's right there. It's right there as just seminal moments of my life. And, that's kind of defines that sense of place. It's more than just this physical building, and it's more than just the distilled spirits that we make that are sold in this building. It is all these things that emotionally touch us very deeply. And that's what we love about it. I did, a few months ago, have my kid here for Hamilton, and, then we came back for Big Ears, and you talk about things that are just so different experientially. It's just great to have this showcase here, this Tennessee Theater literally for all people.
Yep.
It's really cool to hear these things, hear you talk about it, and Jeff, your recent experience, and especially when you kind of tie back to when we started the trail, and I say started, when we purchased the name and we built a website, and oh my God, we thought we were spending a ton of money, and it was like $5,000 or something.
We were at the time.
At the time,
all the money.
It was all we had.
The function of our budget, it was huge.
That's a great point. As a function of our budget,
everything is relative, and that was a lot of money at the time.
It was, and we were everybody was so into it, and the whole goal. It's interesting because I love the visitation numbers. The fact that it's 7.8, it's almost a triple of the guys and gals up north. That's great. You know what I'm saying? Like, the thing is that our whole time that we were talking about this, we talked about this integration of hospitality and the tourism aspect. Like, hey, we are look at us. We're entrepreneurs. We've got some big corporations as well, but we're here and we can bring all this together. We're going to be in your restaurant. We can be with your farmer from an agricultural perspective. We can use local farmers. So for me to sit here this 5 years later and see what you're doing, Charity, and Stanton, you're doing as leader of the guild, as on the board there, is awesome because, again, our goal then, and you guys were a part of this, you knew we were trying to get people to our distillery, but then experience the community so that they do want to come back. Because I'll just tell you, and I'm not being mean because I think there's some gorgeous distilleries in Kentucky, but most of those are, you go to that distillery and then there's really not anything else. You're going to go, you're going to spend 2 or 3 hours probably driving to the next one. And that's okay. Trust me, they're kicking ass. Isn't going to hurt their brand.
You might see 2 convenience stores, gas stations between them. If you're on the most direct route, I can tell you there's not much there when you're connecting those dots. So, yeah. And that's not to put it down. I mean, it's beautiful country too, if that's what you're looking for. But I think there's just so much more to do. If you're on vacation and you're trying to, maximize what all you're able to do, windshield time is great. But even more so if you've got some things to do along the way. Like I said, it's the between the sips. That was what we discussed. It would be Tennessee's unique advantage to creating a trail that it would be seen as something different than the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, because I think what they've done is very admirable. But what we all saw is that collectively, a rising tide raises all ships. One of the things that we learned early from the Kentucky Distillers group was that they did not, when they created the trail, they didn't like sign any code of ethics or anything like that. There were no expectations of performance or what you would say or do when people got on your site. And there was a little bit of infighting, and there were some low blows that were being shared at different distilleries. And, in talking with my counterpart from Woodford Reserve at the time, he said, we would have done ourselves a favor had we required a code of ethics from everyone to be signed, as far as, what our labels will say, what we would say about one another, the cleanliness of our properties, the amount of hospitality we're willing to put into it, that we're not going to let a bad day create a bad customer experience, that we're going to, whatever we're feeling, we'll put it aside and do our best to make sure that everybody who walks through our doors gets a good experience, even though every experience is going to be a little bit different. But that we required that, and not everybody who wanted to be on the trail got on the trail. Yeah, unfortunately, and but they understood. We had some very clearly defined things that we expected of someone to be a part of it, and I think that has also been an advantage for Tennessee as we have promoted this as a product that's worth doing. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, if you're on vacation, you're passing through, we've got places to stop and partners that you can go to that will make your day. We'll maximize it. Yeah. It's gosh, I remember all that. It was something we did some things that we learned from some, we saw were mistakes for from other times or other places, specifically KDA, and we learned from that. And it was an interesting time for sure. I just sit there and think back, all these things come back to when we did this and just how much of a pain in the ass it really was. I mean, I'll tell this quick story about purchasing the trail. You may not know this story, Charity, but we had taken some time and had a group that had gone to try to buy the trademark for the Tennessee Whiskey Trail from a couple of hobbyists, which I respect because they were just fans. Yeah, they were just fans, but they went and blocked the most appropriate website. Yeah, and so we did this research. We got with the state about, we'll just call it the Tennessee Spirits Trail, and we went and we sat there with Ted Townsend and Amy New, and they're like, look, it's got to be Tennessee Whiskey Trail. So, if you're going to try to recreate that, you better get ready to spend $100,000. And we're like, well, hell, we got 20. You know what I'm saying? Like, dollars. Yeah, $20, And so I'll never forget. I was like, let's just take a run at this. So so Bruce Boyko, Nashville Craft, he was on the board for a little while. He said, well, those guys are my neighbors. I said, well, call them up. Let's meet at your house and we're going to settle this. And so we met at about 9:30 that night and started drinking. Well, I wasn't drinking. And so they kept drinking. And Bruce and his lovely wife, Linda, kept feeding them more alcohol. And we started actually talking business about 11 o'clock. And probably after Bruce had gotten his guitar out. Played a couple of tunes. I'm going to cut to the punchline here. Yeah. Don't go into negotiations with Kris Tatum if you're not like stone sober. That's exactly it. I'm going to tell you, they came out with their big 150 number, and then it was 100. And then we left that night buying all their intellectual property and all their inventory for like $20,000. And we went back to the state, and the state's like, you got that for $20,000? I was like, yeah, but they were drunk. So anyway, all that being said, I think you guys, Charity, Stan, you guys have done an amazing job. You continue to do an amazing job. What are some things we can expect to see down the pike there for you, Miss Charity? So we're excited. We're going to continue rolling out new itineraries and trip ideas based upon people's interest groups. So you can check out on our website. We're very excited to roll out a new itinerary called Just for Foodies this spring. And this is going to be experiencing the Tennessee Whiskey Trail through culinary and cocktails. So we're very excited about that piece of it. Awesome. This fall, we're hoping to actually also showcase Tennessee state parks and how to explore the trail via state parks and all that's going in across there. So stay tuned, and you can keep up with us via social or the website. That's awesome. I think the other thing, of course, later this month in April is Roar and Pour. Yes. At the Memphis Zoo. Yeah, so right. And that is one of the official guild events. So for people who don't have the time to make it to every single distillery, if you can make it to Memphis that weekend, you will meet at least 80-90% of the distillers behind their own tables, pouring the product, answering questions, and hopefully
Great event at the zoo.
enticing you to make that trip across Tennessee.
Yes, I think that's excellent. We, obviously we are very fortunate to be able to host Tennessee Whiskey Trail events throughout the year in some of the most iconic places across the state. And Memphis Zoo will be coming up, Sip of History at the Hermitage, the home of Andrew Jackson. One thing I do have to also save our date. International Tennessee Whiskey Day is May 21st, and we're going to be celebrating that in Nashville. And actually, we've expanded that from just a day to a week-long celebration. So, we're very excited about that. So mark your calendar down.
What you got going on, Stanton? I know you should have some yoga in there, which I know you're doing. I can see.
Yes, totally. No, you obviously aren't keeping up with us. We're just we're coming into our 6th anniversary.
Awesome.
Mid to late summer. So that's going to be fun. We'll be celebrating that in August. Got some new things coming out. We launched a Fernet way back in March. And so that's fun. It's, we are kind of coming back into what we like to do, which is just weird spirits. We like to take historical things, mix it with our science backgrounds and bring it out into something that's a little different, things that people don't expect. And so we like to kind of refresh the palates for everyone that's on the Tennessee Whiskey Trail. And we continue to do that every day. So
yeah, you got to check out Pomo. I call it Pomo. I think a lot of people call it Pomo. But PostModern spirits come down there in the old city. It's fantastic. Nicki.
Yeah.
Collett.
There's never a dull moment at the theater, that's for sure. Finishing out the Broadway season, that's always a big one this summer. And we do a really, really good, fun summer movie magic series, sponsored by Denart Construction, which is just, it's so much fun. We show different movies throughout the summer and really get a lot of people out here for that. So, just gearing up for that and things coming in the fall. We've got a lot of good things in the hopper that we haven't announced quite yet, but stay tuned. Our events calendar is always being updated. Check that out. Subscribe to our newsletter. Shameless plug. That's the best way. That's the best way to stay in touch and know what's going on, but also get access to pre-sale codes, which we get asked about all the time. So that's the best way to do it.
That's fantastic. I do want to take a second to talk or to just mention, we've talked about a lot of different names and thrown them out here, but there's a couple of people that we're going to talk to later on. We're going to have a legislative conversation later this year. But, there were some other people. You had Billy Kaufman, who was our first president. Jeff Pennington came in next. I think Jeff really lit a fire under us. And then, as Stan mentioned, I was president for several years. And now Alex Castle, who is Tennessee's first female distiller, out of Memphis, Old Dominic over there, is the president currently. Also board members during that time, and I think that long-standing board members that we should definitely recognize are Tyler Crowell out of Corsair. You've got Kent Merritt.
Yeah. Greg Idam.
Greg's been on here before. He's a horrible guy. He's worse than you, Stanton.
Probably he had issues getting up to the mic.
But we had booster seats. I don't get it. I just don't understand it. But
that's what happens. Sometimes scientists are a little more reticent.
Yeah, he's a geek. But those are some of our original ones. Rod Bankovich from Diageo. Jeff, obviously Jeff, myself were there. These were people that, serving on that board is, and I want to say thank you to you guys. I know I'm a pain in the ass. I know, I get that, but it is a thankless job to be on that board and to continue on and to serve for a 3 or 6 year spot is huge. And I don't mean to leave anybody off when I'm listing that stuff off, but I think it's important to know that what you're doing for our industry is valuable. Our first ED was Jill Talbert. She was our ED and lobbyist, and I think we paid her $1.50, something like that a month, and that's $1.50 a month. So she was fantastic,
and she was happy to get it too.
And she was. She's like, I'm going to hang out with these idiots, But no, it's important, I think, to make sure that those names are out there for me and for you guys because they put us where we're at now, and you guys are carrying a torch forward, in my opinion. That's not, it's thankless,
Well, now I'm going to say thank you. So officially, you got one thank you.
Yeah, I know.
Because I wore that hat for 3 years as well, and I get it.
I appreciate that you guys are buttering us up like this, like we're not going to come back to you and elect you guys back to something. Like, come on.
No. I mean, you have to want to do that.
In a few years.
I have a willingness to serve, but just not, not an urgency right now.
Yeah.
I can't imagine there's anything else going on.
No, nothing else. But with all that being said, I would encourage our listeners, check out Tennessee Whiskey Trail. Is it tnwhiskeytrail.com?
Yes,
Boy,
it
I
is.
can't remember that. That's fantastic. Check out PostModern. Obviously, come by Company, gather around with us. We've got a great
back to
slate.
summer hours now. So
Yeah.
so longer hours,
Music,
longer days, and longer hours.
trivia on Wednesdays. We're going to be
At
at
the
Roar and
peaceful
Pour.
side or
Yeah.
Middle Tennessee. Oh,
Yeah.
good gracious. Anywhere you go. Anywhere you go.
So that would be my call. A call to action for our listeners is check these guys out. Check out Tennessee Whiskey Trail. Check this stuff out. There's some fantastic lodging, Airbnbs, things like that along the way. I just want to say thanks for your all's time. I know it was a little longer than normal, but I think we had a lot of good information and just kind of talking and gathering around it. And it means a lot to us that you guys took time, to chat with Jeff and I. So, it
was only Jeff. Jeff was the driving.
He was the driving force.
Come on.
I respect that.
I respect
The OG JA.
That's
the
right.
original JA.
The original JA. If you want to know what about JA, please come by Company Distilling or PostModern, and we'll tell you the story. That's not something we're going to share on here, because we also don't want to be rated as an adult-only podcast. I think that's going to be
PG-13.
Got to keep it PG-13. So again, thank you guys so much. Please check out the video. Stan's looking very svelte. There you go. And we look forward to talking to you guys next month. And next month's going to be a great one. We're actually going to flip the switch a little bit and talk a little beer next month. Some little surprises there. My phrase that I say all the time that I know Jeff hates hearing now is that whiskey is what beer wants to be when it grows up. And so we're going to
I'm
learn
good
more.
with that.
We're going to learn more about that this next
We
month.
always say distillers fix brewers' mistakes.
Oh,
That's what we say in PostModern.
Oh, bravo. I like that one.
Yeah. So
That's-
feel free to throw that. The brewers really seem to love that.
I bet.
Yeah.
I make lots of
Make a
friends
lot
in
of
life.
friends.
Yeah.
Throwing down the gauntlet there.
There we are. I like it. Between Kentucky Sucks and that comment, we've got two friends.
We are. And they're at the table.
And we're at the
That's
table.
really crazy.
And there's 4 people at the table. Or 5. There's 5 people at the table.
Oh, Kris counts.
Man. Boy, I tell you. Well, listen, everybody, thanks so much for coming by, and we appreciate it. And don't forget, come check us out at Company, PostModern, Tennessee Whiskey Trail, and Tennessee Theater. You guys have a great month. We'll see you.
Yep.